Hey everyone, Lisa Richer here with Journey to Bloom, and I'm here with my friend Amanda. And if you are here today, you have either gone and found or stumbled upon my playlist on my YouTube page called Beyond the Diagnosis, Tips and Deep Conversations. See, I'm tongue-tied myself already this morning. So welcome if you're here. I've got my sunshine t-shirt on, and Amanda was just sharing with me that she has some really special earrings. So we're hoping that today this conversation is engaging and something that you walk away from, whether you are a parent, an educator, a professional, or an athlete or a coach. There's something in this for all of you. All right, so today we're going to be talking a bit about preserving peace in the home. And so I'll let Amanda introduce herself in just a moment, a little bit more about her background. And if you're not at the end of this following her on Insta, you should. She gives some really great tips, and you'll understand why after this conversation. So let's step back and think about something for a moment. If you've ever walked into your living room after a long, exhausting school week and felt like your home was becoming a battleground rather than a sanctuary, this is for you. This conversation is definitely for you. And if you come back after today on this channel in this playlist, you're going to learn that I am a big believer that diagnoses inform, they do not define. They are not there to be a label that defines your child, but information that helps you translate the clinical data into actual family room peace so that you're not feeling so overwhelmed. There's so often that parents get trapped in this cycle of trying to fix difficult moments, treating sensory overload and burnout as though it were just a bad behavior. And so today we're going to unpack what happens when we stop trying to fix our kids and start building those environments where they can actually thrive. So Amanda, who is sitting across from me on Zoom here because we're all virtual, and we're going to be talking about this intersectionality today of professional clinical experience and expertise, fierce advocacy across both, even though neither one of us actually call ourselves advocates, and that lived reality of parenting. So, Amanda, I want you to introduce yourself, a little bit about your background, and we're going to dive into a couple questions.
Sounds good. So my name is Amanda Gabel. My company is Amanda Gabel Consulting, and I have a vast background in special education, program development for individuals with various needs. I built a number of programs, one like from the ground up, also revamping and across the lifespan, predominantly focused with autism and other related diagnoses, but I do work with a lot of different various needs of children and adults with executive functioning challenges. I am a mom of three. I have three girls. My oldest is 9, my middle is 5, and my youngest is 2. And it's a very busy household. And so I do have an Instagram handle, Momming on Vibes, where I bring in both my clinical expertise as a therapist, my background as an advocate, as well as just day-to-day life. And a lot of the topics that I bring up are things that I'm either seeing around me, things that are happening to me, things that I'm feeling, things that my kids are feeling, and just bringing in that insight in that way. And so I'm really excited to be here. Um,
Okay,
yeah,
thank
let's
you.
do this.
Yes, so I'm going to dive just a little bit more into the reason I wanted this first conversation here to be with Amanda. There's so much intersectionality, and yet there are so many differences between us. So we are both fierce advocates for our children. We both work with school systems, with parents, with educators, helping them navigate that journey through the system, outside the system. We do it in different ways, though, and we do it with different expertise and different backgrounds. And Amanda brings a clinical therapy background that I don't have. And so I've never said that I was anyone that is a therapist or that diagnoses people, because I don't. And it's a disclaimer on every email I send and any agreements that I have with clients. But I bring people together by using a couple of frameworks, which I'll talk about in a later episode. But really, it's about connecting the dots and bridging the gaps. And that takes a village. And so Amanda is one of those people that's part of that village. I also do Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I do the same videos and stuff across all of those. And it's at Journey, the number two, Bloom. But I do them very differently. And so you can look at my stuff and go, that's nothing like Amanda's. Yet some of the content will be very similar. But what we say and how we see what we say is unique and different and so important because we bring our perspective, professional experiences, personal, lived parental experiences into the home. So let's dive in. How do we build peace at home before a tough school week turns into a weekend crisis?
All right, so we're talking about a child having a tough week, or even a parent could be having that tough week and the child could not be. And then we're going into a weekend. And in the life of a parent, a weekend isn't the typical weekend, right? We could say, yes, thank God it's Friday, work week is over. But then we're falling into a weekend that could be filled with sports, birthday parties, um, family events, just even thinking about what are we going to do to entertain or to do with our kids on the weekend. Maybe you didn't have time to keep up with the housework, right? And so weeks look different when you are a parent. And so when we're coming off of a week and it will look different in every household with various types of children, it's sort of having a concept, right? Because if we have a plan and we're like, this is exactly what we're doing, but something goes off course, we might get dysregulated or the kids might. So it's about finding connection before that weekend. So then we're kind of having this reset as we're going into it. So let's say it's Friday, right? And I'm going to pretend that the parent's having the tough work week and is just, sort of out of sorts. Maybe the kids, right? It's Friday. They're thrilled to be out of school. They're, going between playing nice, fighting, who knows what, right? And it's just like having this moment. And so, in that, a lot of the times on Fridays, when I'm even feeling that kind of a week, I like to then bring us together, right? So, dinner might look like something very organized that I was able to prepare on a really great week. Or it could just be like, what do we have in our fridge? And kids are fed, or let's just order in pizza or Chinese because we need that too. We need sometimes the nights to feel different. And so we still eat together because there's that connectedness. And then it's like, okay, let's maybe do a family movie night or a game night or just hang out. Um, because then it gives that time of like, let's settle down, let's regroup, let's invite in the weekend. And before the weekends, I do, if it's really chaotic, I will talk to my husband and we'll map out sort of how we need to split off and how things need to go. I do my best to like have everything organized and together so this way we can grab and go. It's not always a perfect system and it doesn't always work out perfectly and definitely things happen, but it's how can you reset? And that's the same thing for a child. If they're having that tough week at school or maybe there's something going on socially with their friends, what can we do something special, right? So let's have that reset night Friday. Let them breathe, let them decompress, not like a big plan, and sometimes there are kids. Some kids need connection, need engagement, need to play for their regulation, for their resets. Other kids might want space and if we're not a big TV screen household. So if my child is needing that, Friday night's a good night where if they're like, I really just want to watch my own show, then we're together and they're each maybe on their iPad or one is on like the big TV. And it's not because I love that, but it's because there's still togetherness and connectedness with us just all being in that same room. And then we can have that reset. And then there are times where I've actually canceled plans last minute and I've been honest with others, not telling them my business, but saying, either I'm putting it on myself if I don't want to put on my child, like I had a tough week, I just can't do this, right? Depending on what the commitment is, of course. Um, and just kind of going with it. So you have a plan, but the plan is a guide,
Yeah.
and we need to
So
be flexible and work within. And that's the biggest thing that I think people get stuck in is the plan and what we have to do and it being a strict rather than knowing you can have the boundaries and you can have the structure, but also allow that flexibility for yourself and what your family needs at that time.
Yeah, so I wrote some notes down because let's talk about
Yes.
beyond the diagnosis into this. If I don't write it down, I would have jumped in the middle of your thought. And I also know that knowing you for so long, you need to get your thoughts out. And so you have to get, so I, in order to set that, remember it, retain it, I'm writing it down, right? So then you're getting it. So I want to like just chime in to a couple of things. One, is adult to adult, this is something where because Amanda and I have that connectedness in terms of how each of us thinks and processes things because we've done a good amount of work together, we're able to give each other that space too to get through what we need to do, or you need space to regulate. With the children, it's the same thing. So you were talking about reset. My kids are 16 and 19, junior in high school, just starting a sophomore year in college. And
Yeah.
so, very different phases of life, but they also need reset. They also need that maybe something special. And with those things, it was really interesting to see. I was talking to my husband this morning. We were out on a walk, and I said it was so amazing to see our boys actually start bonding this summer. And
That's
even
amazing.
better, okay, raising kids is hard. Raising neurodivergent kids is like I can't even describe it sometimes. And so
Hmm.
both of mine are neurodivergent, lots of different, neuro differences, which I'll go into at another conversation. But as the summer went on, and as my older one started to see my younger one getting dysregulated, he was moving back to public school after being in a small private school that was all about emotional, social regulation, and then academics. Because if you're not able to regulate and you're not able to communicate, you actually can't connect and collaborate in classroom, right? And so
Correct.
he started going on walks, and my older son was taking the dog for walks every night. And then just a week or two ago, he's like, I think you should come with me, to his brother. So this is someone where our younger son will get dysregulated at night. Like, how the dog does a zoomies. Sometimes we would
Hmm.
tell our younger son he had the zoomies.
Yeah.
And so getting him out into the fresh air because it hasn't been as humid at night and being able to just walk and with the like nature chirping and all of those things, it helped my husband and I be home with calm, no one around after a long day. We needed to regulate, and the
Hmm.
two of them to be out by themselves and to bond. And I think one of the biggest things I was listening to you is realizing and recognizing what we did as parents when the kids were younger. We would always go to the grocery stores together. We would go to Costco together. We'd
Hmm.
get one of those big orange like carts where you put like TVs on, and my kids would stand on those, and we would literally ride them around. So they were having fun while we were getting our
That's actually a
groceries.
really good idea.
Okay, so try it. It's amazing. I've got so
I'm
many
going
pictures of
to.
them from that. And so they knew early on that certain nights we ate dinner at home, certain nights we might eat out, but that shopping happened and that they were part of that process. And so I think you're also really good at doing that, Amanda, is like bringing your children into what you're doing. At some point in
Yeah.
time, because our kids became so vastly different in their needs, there was that disconnect. And then there becomes that extra pressure and that stressor as a parent. And when you when you need that day, I love that you said this as letting someone know you had to cancel plans sometimes, because the recovering people pleaser, I just kept going and going and going and going until literally life slapped me in the face and burned out
Hmm.
so hard that I couldn't get off of the couch. But what I do now is I will share that I can't do something, maybe with a one-liner of an explanation, but sometimes with no explanation. I'm unable to make it. Pause. And
Hmm.
I say this because we as parents don't need to explain to someone else why we need regulation. But what we do need to do is understand when a child needs to regulate that we need to give them that space too and not just try to get them to push through. Can we talk about that for a few minutes?
Yeah, and that was a big lesson I learned when my oldest was born. Because at that point, right, and when you're in a marriage, right, and then you involve kids, you're still growing together, but then you might be growing at different paces and with different realizations. And, at that time, my husband was still on the go, 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 right? We said yes to something, we should be there in social events and the whole concept of, you know, where before we had the baby, right? He kept hearing like, oh, things are going to change dramatically, right? All that stuff. And he was sort of afraid of it, where I was on the opposite, feeling like life, it's not that life changes in the sense that we can't have friends, we can't socialize. It just looks different and we do it differently. And so in those early years, I do have a bit of the people pleasing bend. I think that being a parent really challenged me in that way. And I really grew in that way of, I'm going to put certain needs first, and especially my children. And that's, I think, what, really challenged me was when it was about me. Okay, I can put myself or I can push myself, but it wasn't fair for my child if my child needed that time, or my child maybe wasn't feeling so well. And maybe if we stayed home, she wouldn't have gotten sick for so many days. And certain things that I was catching on to because I wasn't as distracted, or I didn't care the same way, right, as I maybe did before kids. And so that was a real learning curve for me, is it's okay. And if people can't understand, that's okay too. Because I can't control how everyone else feels, but I also know what's good for me and my family, and I know who I am as a person. And anybody who knows me knows I don't cancel plans lightly, that I'm a good friend, right? I put other people first a lot of the time. And so if I'm saying a need, they'll hopefully understand and respect that. And I've learned over the years that they do. And those who don't, it's okay too. And people move on and move forward. And I can understand if someone's disappointed. But we get caught up in that, worry of what everyone else is thinking. And so it's how you do it, right? So if you need that reset or anything like that, it's how you do it, right? If your child needs something for you, it's also listening to them and thinking like, okay, how can I provide it? Right? Like, let's say you have a plan that you can't cancel. It's saying, okay, we're going to do this thing, but then we're going to have this time. And it's letting them know that they have it too. But with the connectedness, it's really, really important, because when all of you are sort of maybe on different pages in that, it's what do we have in common that's going to just keep us together, even if we're doing different things, but in that same room. Or, what I do, right? I can't send my kids out on walks by themselves, but I've kind of put things in my house that allow for regulation. So when it's nice outside, what I do is when my children are really like, maybe they're not getting along, or I'm feeling even dysregulated, and I know like I'm needing a moment because I can't be involved in their problem solving. I send them outside. Go outside, you can come back in when you figure it out, or you stay outside. In the winters, because I'm in New York, so it's cold, I have, a gymnastics bar. I allow in the playroom them to jump on the couches. Like, I made spaces where if they need to regulate or go somewhere, instead of saying, right, the go to your room, which I'm, all for it. And I do that sometimes too. But when I see it's because of a dysregulation, it's, go downstairs and do XYZ, or go outside and do XYZ. And then when they're calm and regulated, then we can talk, and then we can figure out, and then we can problem solve.
So let's unpack that a little bit. So I know that
I
I get
jumped.
what you're saying because I've lived it, you lived it, we understand it. But for those of you that are sitting there going, oh my gosh, what did they just talk about? There's so much here. Now I'm even more overwhelmed. I don't understand. I'm going to bring this back to just kind of supporting the emerging mental health and feeling like taking away the feeling that we have to fix everything and instead meet people where they are, truly seek to understand, listen with curiosity, that connectedness. So I'm gonna throw out one of my frameworks for a moment, and then I'm gonna ask you a question. So when I think about my clarity, confidence, and courage journey map, clarity aligns with internal, confidence aligns with relational, and courage aligns with systemic. Now, you need the courage to be comfortably uncomfortable, to be vulnerable enough. So it kind of bookends both sides. But
Hmm.
the clarity is, am I feeling like this child is not listening because I'm having a bad day and I'm not listening to them and I'm dysregulated? Or is it really, is it really so being self-aware and understanding that internal piece of that clarity. And then when you're thinking about how do we have those calm, confident conversations that are building those relationships. And so I'm going to pause on that one because here comes the question. You and I both know that in the family room, hard moments can feel easily like behavioral battles.
Mm-hmm.
You know that I often say behavior is communication. I know you believe that as well.
Yes.
So, how can parents reframe these moments to see what their child's behavior is communicating, whether it's sensory, whether it's exhaustion, whether it's a mental health need? So, like, kind of talking about, is it burnout? Is it sensory overload? Is it something deeper? And how do you help parents tell the difference when things are feeling chaotic in real time?
Um, so the it's a it's a broad answer because every family looks different and every child's behavior means something different. And especially when we're talking about children with diagnoses or even adults with diagnoses, that also shifts into what they're communicating because there are, individuals who don't have the language to communicate what's going on, right? And so there so it depends, right? It's like a puzzle piece. So every family is like a puzzle, and you have to kind of figure out how the pieces connect. And so I really work on an individual level. But the first thing is when I'm even in the room and it's chaotic and I'm not sure, and I get very, overwhelmed the second, right? There's noise and dysregulated and things like that, even though, right, I surround myself with a million children. I pause. I take a pause and almost do a surveillance. And it's a quick check-in. And so this is going to sound longer than it actually plays out in real life. But my first thing is, okay, how am I feeling? Because I know when I start to feel dysregulated, my chest tightens. So I'm very, in tune. And I do this work with my clients that I work with in therapy is where do you feel your stress? And try to note it. Because if you then feel that, then it's that pausing right at it's happening. And I take breaths or I do what I need to do for myself to calm in that moment so then I can clearly see what's going on with the kids. There's a few things, and I'm going to talk about my household. They'll bicker, they'll fight, they'll come to me the he said, she said. I made my patio door in the kitchen, and it was just an off the cuff idea one day into a problem solving space. And I don't remember how it came up or whatever, but they were fighting, and I felt like, you know what? I'm not going to say anything right, and there is never a fix it. Because whenever I've tried to think that I'm fixing it, it gets worse. Or there's a pushback or something like that. So there's never a fix it. It's always what tools do we have? How do we cope? How do we move forward? And if we look at it that, then it takes out the perfection of like, what do I do to fix this problem? And more like, what do I do to try to help teach? Because also part of sibling dynamics and even family dynamics is what are you learning? That skills that's going to bring you into the workplace, that's going to bring you with relationships and with friends, because it's all teaching and it all overlaps. It's not just, right? And we think that when siblings fight, that's a negative. But I also see it as a positive because that's problem solving skills. It means there's two differing opinions, two differing ways of doing something. And so we're at an impasse. So what do we do? So I send them to the problem solving. I guess it's not really a corner, the problem solving window.
I
And
love
it
that.
magically turns into that whenever, yeah. And they have to sit down. And what's nice is because we see our backyard and I feel like it's a calming space, but it's there in the kitchen, which I usually am in the kitchen, so I can kind of hear, but without
Yeah.
involving. And they have to work it out.
Was it the
And if
window
they say they,
connection that had I'm
sorry?
trying my mind just kind of my ADHD, right? Woo. To there was a show that I watched when I was growing up. It was like the magic
Okay.
window or the magic something. And I can't remember. Maybe someone that's listening can, and you're younger than me, so you might not know, but maybe someone can tell us. But there was this place where people went and then they got calm. And I think they read a story and the kids got together. And like you said, it's just like this connectedness. And I
Mhm.
know it was a fully loaded question that I asked, and I asked it with really just for those listening, I asked Amanda three questions, boom, boom, boom. And I did it one because I knew that she would be comfortable, off the cuff, just sharing what she shared. The more important reason I did it was for you to realize as a listener that everyone is one of one. So every circumstance is a little bit different. Your trigger is going to be different than somebody else's trigger. So I have a certification for ABCs of AB, like behavioral understanding the ABCs of ABA. So what is the antecedent? What is the behavior? What is the consequence? And how you work with those with one child is going to be very different than another. I'm going to share one personal story, and then I think we're gonna wrap everything up here. My oldest, autistic, my younger one, ADHD, those are just one of many different neuro differences that they have. There's often more than one intersecting or intertwining or overlapping neuro difference. And so we can get into that at another time. But my older son went through ABA therapy. I know it's controversial in some cases. I get it. I've had great ones and off ones we had a fire. But those that did it really well were trauma informed. They met my kiddo where he was, and they helped me understand that unless my child is regulated, unless he's able to be open to listening, it doesn't matter. And even worse off, if I'm dysregulating him because he is a highly sensitive person, which I am as well. So that doesn't always work out. All my kids are highly sensitive. I think my whole family is. But if we are dysregulated as adults, then it's hard for us to be calm and open-minded to understanding a perspective that doesn't make sense to us. And so with with the kids and these differences, I bring this up in part because ABA therapy was great for my older son. My younger one, ADHD, anxiety, and other differences himself, all the things I learned going through that 14-hour certification course, none of it worked for him until we were able to get his anxiety regulated. Because what I learned from the neurologist was if he is not calm and regulated enough to be able to be open to listening to you, and then he's hyperactive and being impulsive, it's not his fault. It's his brain chemical. And so where my older son, we never put him on any medication, my younger one, we needed to. So again, beyond the diagnosis opens up this huge, vast thing. The common piece here, though, is, and this is where I'm going to ask you the question, is when we are regulated, everything is better. A tip that I got from my therapist to work with my kids was think of a color, take some deep breaths, like Amanda said, and channel that color. And you might not be someone that channels, but I am very much a person of capacity. I'm a feeler. I understand that part of the world. And lo and behold, when I started channeling those, like thinking of a color, it wasn't necessarily about the color. It was about the fact that what I was doing was helping me regulate, and I was pausing and I was processing. So my question for you, the biggest, actually, it's really more of like to finish a sentence. It's more of a sentence finisher. And I may have given her this ahead of time, but I'm not sure you read it. The biggest mistake we make when a child is dysregulated at home is
trying to fix it in that moment. We want to step back. We want to meet them where they are. And many times, what they're upset about, we will not understand because it won't make sense to us. But that can't matter in that moment because it's what's important to them and what's impacting them. So it's not about us validating that, oh, that is a reason to be upset, or that oh, that is like, right, whatever. It's if that is something that impacted them and dysregulated them, it's validating. And then when they're calm, talking through it with them if they are verbal. If they're not verbal, then, however they can communicate, and figuring out one small thing, right, to do better. So whether it's, okay, the next time you're feeling this way, did it help that I gave you space? If the answer is yes, then your child just maybe wants space. And space can mean you're in the room together, but you're not maybe hugging your child. Or maybe, what else comes out of it. But also involving your child in that conversation. So it's not a lecture. It's the child knowing you want to understand how their brain works. You want to work with them. and meet them where they are. And there's that partnership. And in that, we are also teaching them the coping skills. So when we're dysregulated and we're taking deep breaths or doing some of the things you said, Lisa, we're also modeling.
Mhm.
And as parents, right, we're not perfect. There's no perfect parenting. We're all going to sometimes, and I've done it with myself where, right, I know the right thing to say, I know the right thing to do, but I'm in the heat of the moment and I might say the wrong thing. And so I recover. I take accountability. I know how to apologize. I also show, right? Oh, I'm like, if I feel my chest like tightening and they're still like kind of all around me, right, all chatting at the same time, I do say, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom or, I need a moment. I'm just gonna walk away. I'll be right back. Because what I'm teaching them is the language to say, I just need to pause, leave, but I'm coming back. I'm not abandoning the conversation. It's just so I can regulate myself. And they understand that too and use that language where my kids will say to me, can I just go be in my room for a few minutes? I'll say,
Yeah,
sure, they do. They go to their room and then they come back and we can talk.
absolutely. And it's we model, right? And whether we want to believe it or not, they're watching us. So our behavior
Mhm.
will decide some of how they behave. So there was don't try to fix it. I just heard Amanda say that. Don't try to fix it. If it is important to them, it is important. Doesn't have to be important to you, and you can let go of that. But if it is important to them, it is important. And so
Yeah.
when we are in these phases, there's one other framework, and then I'll talk about this later at later times, and maybe in some of my shorter snippets that I do on my own, is my Ripe Ideas roadmap. And what it is a cycle of reflecting, implementing, practicing, and evaluating. And it's Ripe Ideas, and the two I's are lowercase because implementing inclusivity. And what I mean by that is inclusivity of how each of us thinks differently, how each of us behaves differently, what is important to that other person. So again, if it's important to them, then it's something that whether you understand it or not, respect that they do have feelings and differences. And if there's one thing that you want people, Amanda, to take away as we wrap up, and then please, if you enjoy this, come back, share it with others. We're going to have some episodes with school psychologists, with mom doctors, like doctors that are moms that also have neurodivergent kids, and chronic illnesses, all sorts of things. Beyond the diagnosis goes many, many different ways. So this is just the first of many. But if there's one thing you want people to take away today, Amanda, what would that be?
That there's no parent guidebook to parenting. We're thrown in, we all have different kids, we're all different types of parents, and that's okay. And so, right, we all go on Google and Instagram and see a whole host of things, and it's all really good information in a lot of ways. But to take it all, even my post, even Lisa's post, all with a grain of salt in the sense of take the concept, take the information that makes sense to you, and apply it to what works for you and your situation. And it's okay. Parenting is imperfect, and we're humans raising humans.
It is okay to not be okay. It is okay to not know everything. Building bridges, connecting dots takes a village. Amanda and I work with people across the board to be able to help people do that, whether for me, whether you're an athlete, a parent, an educator, a professional, a coach, and a lot of those intersect and overlap. Amanda works with parents as well, works with adults as well, correct? And so we'll be
Yes.
back, I know, for another conversation. This is going to be the first of many, I think. And I'm going to leave you from my perspective of whether your child is 2 or 19, they can still come home from a long week and be dysregulated. Whether you're in your 20s, your 50s, or beyond, you too can come home and at the end of a long week be dysregulated. So be kind to each other, be patient, meet each other where they are with curiosity and compassion. And I hope to have you back here again soon. Thank you, Amanda, for being part of
Thank
it.
you for having me.